Excerpts from the Book of Zeal. The follow-on races. After observing and interacting with the gnomes, pixies, fairies, and phantoms, the Vespers agreed that mankind's creation had been a successful endeavor. They took on the task of creating more races using energy from the remaining combinations of Vesper groups. The Terrans and the Winds created the fifth race. The new people were tall and thin, quick-witted and spry. When released, they chose the outskirts of forests as their homes. The Vespers called them elves. The Terrans and the Aquas begot the sixth race. Of all the races, they proved to be the most varied and versatile. Unlike the other races, they did not excel in any one area. They looked similar to the elves, but on average they lacked the elves' height and grace. Their versatility enabled them to live everywhere possible. The Vespers named them humans. The seventh race resulted from the combination of Terran and Flare mana. They were shorter and stouter than the humans and elves. The members of this race were hearty in build and claimed great strength. They made their homes inside mountains and caves. The Vespers called them dwarves. The Winds and Aquas combined their energies to make the eighth race. Members of this race had a similar size and build to the humans and elves. However, the Vespers adapted their bodies for life underwater. Most members of the eighth race lived in the oceans, but some also inhabited deep, landlocked lakes. They became known as the mermen. Power from the winds and flares gave birth to the ninth race. Members of this race had wings that allowed them to soar through the skies. While they shared a similar size with humans, elves, and mermen, they were lighter, which enabled them to keep aloft. They inhabited the tops of trees and dwellings high in the mountains. The Vespers named them Tengu. The 10th and last race came from uniting energies from the Aquas and Flares. They resembled the dragons and were the tallest of all the races. Unlike the other races, they did not live in groups. Members of this race rarely formed unions of any kind unless procreating. Warm places like deserts or near volcanoes became their homes. They were the Draconites. The first races took the responsibility of introducing the new races into the world. Differences between the first races and the follow-on races became apparent right away. The follow-on races did not share the same affinity with the natural world as the first races. The Lifa were the experts in creating life, but they did not take part in creating the follow-on races. The other groups had the power to create life like the Lifa, but they weren't as skilled. As a result, their limitations constrained their creations. For example, the first races excelled at manipulating mana both within themselves and the world around them. They came up with the term magic to identify their use of mana. The first race's magic gave them abilities comparable to that of the Vespers and Elementals, albeit on a lesser scale. The newer races could also use magic, but their capabilities paled compared to that of the first races. Further, members of each follow-on race showed substantial variation in the use of and proficiency in magic. Some of them chose not to use magic at all and focused on physical interaction with the world. The follow-on races recognized the differences between themselves and the older races. They referred to the first as the children of the Lifa and exalted them. As a result, the children began to consider themselves superior to the other races. The fairies in particular grew arrogant and restricted their contact with the younger races. Some members of the newer races grew to resent the children of the Lifa. The lofty attitudes held by many within the first races created a rift between them and the newer races. However, the younger races never denied the children's elder status. Instead, they accepted that the children of the Lifa were set apart in some ways. The children were closer to the Elementals and Vespers than the other races. Consequently, the reverence for the children outweighed the resentment. The Vespers gave all the races time to settle and make their way in the world. They promised that when mankind was ready, the Vespers would hold a meeting to celebrate the advent of man into the world. Thanks for listening. Please like and subscribe for more tales from Zeal. Also, look out for Birth of the Forever King, the first novel from the world of Zeal. It's coming soon.